Firearms decreed illegal in New Mexico by Democrat governor. Here's a clip.
Governor bans carrying guns in Albuquerque after 11-year-old killed. Let's you want to pull that article up? You have that there you go. And NewsGuard certified 100 out of 100. I can't believe this. Governor
That's
bans
wild.
carrying guns in Albuquerque after 11. It's not just Albuquerque. It's there's like a metro limit.
Oh, wow.
Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham on Friday announced a new public health order that she said will ban people from carrying firearms, either open or concealed, in Albuquerque and throughout the Bernalillo County for the next 30 days, regardless of whether they have a permit. Grisham, a Democrat, issued an executive order Thursday evening declaring gun violence a public health emergency.
Sounds like it's a very dangerous place. If you live in Albuquerque, I feel bad for you. It's really ironic. She's like, it's so dangerous in Albuquerque that you can't carry a device to defend yourself. What is wrong with these people?
See, this is beyond unconstitutional, but I will tell you this right now. I'm willing to believe the police, with smiles on their face, will arrest you.
Maybe.
If you have a weapon.
Maybe.
The order states...
I saw this today. This was posted, I think, yesterday. This clip was recorded yesterday. I saw something on Twitter earlier from a quote from this governor. She's like, I don't care if it's unconstitutional. I don't care. All these gang members, they have guns on their waist and everything. So it's easier to arrest criminals. And they were like, well, you can't do that because it's unconstitutional. And she's like, oh, no, I can. If I declared it an emergency. Not that I can do whatever I want. I don't care about the Constitution. Look that up. I saw it on X, Twitter, whatever. Look that up. It was really interesting.
No person other than law enforcement
Sorry, I don't have the video.
Or licensed security officer shall possess a firearm, either openly or concealed, with cities or counties averaging 1,000 or more violent crimes per 100,000 residents per year since 2021. So, because of that, it only applies to the city of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, Lujan Grisham said, and can only be enforced by New Mexico State Police, whose presence in the state's largest city would be significant over the next month. We've seen these kind of things happen in various countries, happen throughout history, and they almost always, I think it's fair to say always, lead to very, very, very awful outcomes. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for the awful outcome, but typically disarming the population by decree results in active conflict between the citizenry and law enforcement. And, I know all of these libs are going to get so bent out of shape when I say this, but for those of you that know American history, you will know that the first battle, which wasn't really even a battle of the American Revolution, was because the Crown was trying to seize the weapons from local militia. Basically farmers who got together and said, we do not believe these laws are justified. And they went and said, okay, well, we're going to come take all your guns from you. And they said, no, you're not. When we were setting up the show, what's the big story, I always ask? And we've got this huge story about the Georgia grand jury voted to indict 3 sitting members of the Senate, Republicans. And only because the Democrats were like, no, we're not going to do that. It didn't happen. Even though this is what the grand jury does. This is where we're at right now in this country. And then Brandon over here says, New Mexico just banned by decree carrying weapons. And I'm like, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. Googled it. And I'm like, no, this is just some kind of like platitude. This is some kind of, and then Brandon's like, nope. New Mexico, here it is.
Literally just came up in my Instagram feed.
Wow.
The first time I looked at it, I'm like, maybe this is somebody being a little dramatic on Twitter. Because, sometimes people, they see a story and then they extrapolate something that's not quite correct. Like, it's not all the way verifiable. They just kind of go their own way with it. But sure enough, looked into it, and that's exactly what it seems like just happened.
I will say...
Amazing.
Yep. Yeah, no, she admits it. I found this. Where she was saying this. I'll show it to you here.
Yeah. But your point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise...
I'm sorry if there's an echo on this. My apologies.
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. In this emergency, this 11-year-old and all these parents who have lost all these children, they deserve my attention to have the debate about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights?
Huh.
I took an oath
What?
to uphold those
Makes no
too.
sense.
And if we
They could defend
ignore this
themselves if you
growing problem,
gave them that constitutional
without being
right.
bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute, you're talking about crimes. There are already laws against the crimes, so how are there rights?
There already are
But
crimes,
again,
exactly.
if
Why do we need more
I'm
laws?
safe, who's standing up for that right? If this climate
They should be
is
standing
so
up for
out of
themselves with their
control,
gun rights.
somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
You're punishing people for other criminals. For people being, you're punishing people for other people being criminals.
No. But here's what I do think. It's a pretty resounding message.
Yeah, that's what she says. Yeah, so all that's real. But yeah, so what can you say? Let's get back to the clip, but I just wanted to show you that and confirm that, and that's what this governor is saying. She's all on board with it. She thinks it's the right thing to do. She's saying, what about their constitutional rights? Like, what are you talking about? You're taking away their constitutional rights too. If they can't carry a gun, what are you talking about?
Arizona didn't ban guns. Some tyrant is attempting to, and that tyrant, or New Mexico, thank you very much. New Mexico didn't ban guns. Some tyrant's trying to, and it's up to the people of New Mexico to decide whether or not that tyrant's going to speak for the people.
This is the inflection point. The question we have right now is it a legal executive order? And the question for a person in my position is, what advice do you give the average person?
First of all, I think that it's clearly unconstitutional. There is no provision in the Constitution, in the federal Constitution, the United States Constitution, that empowers governors to revoke the rights of any citizen.
She doesn't care,
any
though.
reason. So
Or to create law.
Fair enough. True. So there's that. So first of all, right off the bat, it's unconstitutional. You're gonna have people get together, peacefully open carry, peacefully disregard the law, and it's gonna have to be.
They probably won't even
It's
know
not a law,
about
though.
it.
Well,
This is
the decree.
This is the question I have. My position is almost always, we challenge the law through the legal system. When legislatures pass laws, it's something we have to get active on with knocking on doors and filing lawsuits. Many of these laws are unjust and get removed instantly. It is extremely likely that this thing is going to be struck down almost immediately. However, the governor did it on a Friday intentionally so that she's guaranteed a few days of this being in effect.
Yep.
Which is using the
She's
procedure
a nasty person,
as the
it seems
punishment.
like.
What do you say to the average person? This is not law. This is unconstitutional, and I would argue should be considered seditious or illegal on the part of the governor.
Should be illegal.
It should be a criminal act to subvert the Constitution.
Yep.
It is, actually. The question is, who will the police, in what direction will the police decide to enforce this? Do we then say, you must abide by decree of governor? Well, that's not legal in this country. In which case, we would say to people, disregard decree of governor? Well, now you've got police saying you're inciting criminal actions or something to that effect.
Yeah,
the law
it's
is broken.
wild.
The legal system has shattered.
You're saying if you tell a cop in New Mexico to defy the governor that you're committing a crime?
No, if you tell someone they should keep and bear arms regardless of the decree, you are now inciting someone to, as per the governor's view, violate their public health order under executive powers.
So wild.
Which is not law. But the police will say you're inducing someone to commit a crime.
America
So I
is
did just
not
look this
America.
up. This is kind of interesting because I agree with a lot of that. Like there is no provision that allows the governor to defy, the Bill of Rights. That's very basic. But they're having state police enforce this, which is why I was really curious what the New Mexico state constitution says about it. So Article 2 of the Constitution of New Mexico provides, quote, "No law shall abridge the right of the citizen to keep and bear arms for security and defense, for lawful hunting and recreational use, and for all other lawful purposes. But nothing herein shall be held to permit the carrying of concealed weapons," which was kind of interesting.
So this is the New Mexico Bill of Rights, Section 2, and right to bear arms is Article 2, Section 6. And it's exactly as you said. We have it pulled up here. And this was, it looks like as of November 2nd, 1971. So the governor, if the police I'm hoping the police just say, here's what needs to happen. We need a statement from the head of state police publicly right now to the press. This is not correct. It will not be enforced. The citizens have a right to keep and bear arms, you know, as regulated, and we will not arrest anyone. I'm sorry. I've seen it happen too many times. We all know.
Are the police going to actually do that, though?
It's actually relatively prominent. A woman from Pennsylvania going to Atlantic City. She had a revolver in her purse. She crosses the bridge into Jersey and gets pulled over. Officer comes and says, you know, I pulled you over, and she goes, I don't. And then she says, but I do want to let you in, just to make sure you're informed. I do have my weapon, my gun on me. I do have a permit for it, and it's here in my bag. And he went, thank you, ma'am. Out of the vehicle, please. You're under arrest. That's a felony. And wow. The only reason, so this is a story that was told to me by a gun shop in New Jersey. Apparently it was a big deal. The only reason she got off was that her lawyers pulled up a case where a celebrity was given a special pass.
What's her name?
I don't know the woman's name. I was at a gun shop. This is the guy told me. So
I've heard this story too. Like I can verify that this story has gone around.
There was some celebrity who got special treatment. Their lawyer cited this case, and then the DA was like, okay, drop it. We're going to lose this one. It's going to set bad precedent. But the only thing that matters to me is that the cop, with a smile on his face, said, ma'am, I know the bridge is 5 minutes right there. I could turn you around right now and say, just bring it home. But I want to destroy you.
Instead, he decided, I'm going to ruin your life. Right? Like, so I'm like, there's a lot of people that are ACAB, and there's a lot of people that are very, don't cross the thin blue line. Both positions are stupid. All right? You have to have some amount of policing in your society and in your community. And if you go to communities that are riddled with crime and you talk to the normal people that are not committing crimes, they're like, send more cops. We need more police because we need to get these people that are committing the crimes off the streets. If you go to places that are high crime, the police know the people that are committing the crimes. They can pick them out. Usually it's
that's wild.
If it's a major city, a couple hundred, few hundred or whatever. You could lock those people up and that'll solve a large portion of the crime. That doesn't mean that every time a cop pulls you over, it's a good idea to tell them all your personal private information. Concealed is concealed. Hush if a cop pulls you over. I think if you have to tell about your gun, you have to tell about your gun.
I think they are trying to create physical conflict in this country. Look, these videos of the feds arresting J6ers with rifles pointed at them. Some like portly fellow walks out of his house in his shorts, like scratching his face, like, huh? And they're just all pointing rifles. What happened in Provo, Utah, when they went in that guy's house, shot and killed him? It appears, maybe it's not the case, but it certainly appears like they are doing everything possible to provoke a violent outbreak. This right here in New Mexico 100%. Is basically chucking dynamite into a crowd and being like, let's see what happens.
But I always say specifically is they want Trump supporters to act a fool. So if you are a Trump supporter, just stay calm and don't do anything crazy like they want you to. Just use the legal challenge. It's just going to sway the public. They're trying so hard. They're like pushing you so hard. Like they're like trying to push you. They're like pushing you and like, come on, attack me. And then no one's really paying attention. And then once they start punching you, yeah, it's nuts, but then just push them off, and then everyone's just going to be like, whoa, why'd you punch? And they're getting to that point where they're just going to start leveling haymakers at people, and then it's just going to backfire because they're just trying to push a little bit. Okay, come on. All he did was push you. You didn't have to like beat him so bad. So that's what they want the public to think. Oh, he just pushed you. You don't want to, but then they're just going to eventually, like if no one does anything, it's like, fine. Then they're just going to go that crazy, and then the public will just see it. So stay calm and don't do anything, and the public's going to see the truth. It's just slowly happening. Trump's going up in the trends and everything, so just keep on just doing what we're doing and just chill out, convince people of stuff, and, just stay calm because that's what they want. They want you to freak out. They want everyone to freak out that is sick of this stuff, left or right. And notice, even if it's someone on the left, they're going to say even if you're a Joe Biden supporter and you're just sick of all this, they're going to say you're a Trump supporter. That's how it is.
I know a lot of like the case that you were talking about earlier where like the cop you said actively chose, he made that decision to ruin her life or at least make her life extremely difficult for the next few years. that's where like I've learned a lot. Just being around like donut operator Cody is like my best friend.
He's great.
I've learned a lot about policing and different stuff like that through his eyes and stuff like that. And a big thing that he harps on is officer discretion with stuff like that. Like that's something that, and I think that's where a lot of the nuance gets lost between like the ACAB crowd, the thin blue line crowd. Like the officer's always wrong, the officer's always right.
They have
officer discretion
they can make decisions.
is really an important thing that is not utilized enough.
And I know that there's a lot of officers, a lot of police officers that don't live in the towns that they police. And I understand that there's a lot of security issues that can come up, and there's safety issues if you're in a place that's got a lot of crime and you're actively throwing people in jail and you live in that town, then there's a possibility of retribution and stuff. I get it. But if you have police officers that you see regularly and you can have a rapport with them, and the police officers can have a rapport with you. If a cop knows that you're not one of the handful of garbage cans that are out there causing all kinds of problems in town, the cop should, and obviously it's not every cop, but the cop really should take that into consideration.
So shout out.
This is like anecdotal. I live in Austin. I live near downtown, and completely anecdotal. But the cops in Austin, now they're doing a lot of state police. Sorry, they're doing a lot of state police because of talk about a decree from Greg Abbott, the governor here in Texas, to have more people come in to Austin state police because the city has defunded the police so much, and 911 calls are going out of control, the timing and everything. So I haven't ran into them, but they're pulling a lot of people over, and so I haven't ran into them. But Austin PD in particular, APD is awesome. I came from Michigan where the police, if they talk to you, and I came from a small town, half of the cops were nice and half of the cops weren't. I haven't really had any problems. I've lived here since 2017 in January, and no, the cops always chill with me, to everybody. I had a woman I was hanging out with, and she was visiting from California, and she asked the cops about weed. She was like, "Oh, so the is weed legal here?" And then I'm from California, and the cops just like, "No, it's not, but we have way other big things to worry about." And then also I saw a cop, or my brother used to do Uber, and he saw a guy just run a red light right in front of a cop, and he didn't even care. The cop just pulled up to the light after, and he's like, no one was coming. Who cares? So APD is generally like that, even in a big city. So big cities could do this, but yeah, that's more likely in small towns, But now that the state police have been coming around, all these small traffic violations are probably getting enforced. So you should keep the local police. Yeah, it's way better. And don't defund them, because then you do that. Now you got the state police coming in here, and they're used to enforcing traffic laws, where APD, they're used to being chill. Austin's kind of a rambunctious city a little bit, not too much, but, people don't care too much about these, like jaywalking. I've walked in front of cops in Austin countless times. They just don't care. It's like we have bigger problems to solve. So they don't enforce the law here. Right? Most cops don't. So that's how you should have it. And again, don't defund APD, because now you have the state guys coming in, and they do care about stuff like that, stupid stuff like that. So just remember that, I'm not saying you, because you're watching this, you're probably not going to be hating on the police like that. I have mixed feelings on the police. I don't like that the government gives so much power to certain people, but at the same time, if you actually have a cool city that's like relaxed, the police are just going to help you. They're just going to come and help you. If something happens, they're going to help you. If someone's trying to fight you, they're going to help you. They're not going to come in and raid your house for some dumb stuff. If you have weed on 6th Street, for example, no one's going to care. They have bigger problems to solve. So, yeah, I like the local police, like that thing, and knowing the local police, even if you don't know them directly. Like, I don't know any cops here directly in Austin, but when I talk to police here, they're always really nice. They're really friendly. They don't just accuse you of stuff. Where I grew up in Michigan, in a small town, you just did anything, and they were like, okay, if you lived in a nice area, they'd be okay, cool. but they would just interrogate you. They would stop you, get out of their car for just walking down the street. I was a teenager, and then they would just be like, "Oh, what are you doing over here?" And then they come and talk to us for like, "No, I'm not doing anything." I've never had that happen in Austin, not even close. If I'm just walking down the street, cops just don't care. So yeah, the local thing is very important. And again, don't defund your police in your city because the governor or the national government is going to take their place anyways. So I have people but be careful too, though. I mean, there's been a lot of police instances. I talked about this before. I don't want to get too much. YouTube's going to demonetize me. But like right before I moved here, there was a 17-year-old kid. He was driving without a license. The cops harassing him. He was going to pick up his brother from his basketball game in high school. It's really messed up. He forgot his wallet, didn't have his license. The cop makes him get out of the car, and the kid did something dumb. The cop like shoved him, and then the kid attacked the cop, and I could tell you what happened. And I saw the body cam footage. And then this cop was just being such a jerk to this kid. Wouldn't it just be like, and this was a smaller town in Michigan too. So, and then he was just being such a jerk to him. And then the worst happened, There was the kid isn't alive anymore. Let's just put it that way. And it's so sad. He just went to go get his little 15-year-old brother. He's only 17, and he goes to get his little brother from the basketball game. And what happens is now his life's over. That's awful, just because the cop was being a jerk. So it's tricky, but get a good police environment and make sure they're cool people. Like here in Austin, have a cool area, and you can fund the police, and they're going to take care of you. They're going to worry about way bigger stuff. So, it's tricky. But yeah, I see both sides really, because that is messed up what happened to that kid in Michigan. But yeah, so it's an interesting topic really. But don't defund your personal police or your city's police, because then it's even less personal. But let's hear what else they have to say.
To Elon Musk, for helping bring awareness to this. He just responded, but it's all like his response is already generating a reaction.
Yeah.
So the story, I tweeted the story out, holy F, and so a whole bunch of people have jumped on it. That's what gives me hope, is that this was such a bold and psychotic move. It's like dropping a boulder into a pond. Everyone notices the bang and the massive splash just shocked everybody.
And the cops, the New Mexico state cops that are listening right now, or they're going to hear this story, have an opportunity to exercise some discretion right now.
Yeah.
You got to protect your citizens.
Absolutely, especially if you swore an oath to the Constitution of not only the United States, but I imagine to New Mexico.
So
it's your obligation.
And you mentioned the Constitution of New Mexico. I'm sorry to cut you off, Tim, real quick, but like almost every state in the Union has something that resembles the Second Amendment.
Yes.
All of them.
Oh yeah.
Every single one has something similar. It's not the exact same thing, but all of them have something like the Second Amendment, because owning firearms is one of the things that is a clear indication that you are free. Right?
California doesn't have one.
God, wild. And it is biting them.
Not surprised there.
They must have.
Tim must have just looked that up. He was just like, nope. I bet you California's. I was about to start looking that up, and then Tim did it. Go him, because I was like, does California? That's a good question.
Nope.
No, they never really did.
It's a newer state relative to the rest of them, but
true.
Yeah,
so,
maybe
but it was
Hawaii
still
doesn't.
founded like during the Civil War times, if not before. California is around the gold rush, So it's just like, yeah, they're crazy there. They might have just got rid of it though. They're nuts.
As well. But,
No offense if you're from
seriously,
California, but the culture in California is kind of crazy. You got to admit. If you still live in California, I don't know. It's interesting. I know people have family there and everything, but get your family out of there. Get everyone out of there. It's awful.
The Second Amendment is supposed to be, supremacy clauses means that it's supposed to be the supreme law, but,
So, man, I was the culture war this morning was very interesting. I thought it was pretty good. Poor Alex didn't really get a chance to speak. Didn't really speak, so I can't really, thanks for coming anyway, buddy. But Brandon Wu was here, and the general sentiment among many of these leftists, one thing I love with what they do is they take tweets of mine where I say something like Civil War, but they remove the context of why I said it. So it's just a bunch of tweets.
I'm always
that blanket
scared
say
people are
Civil
going to
War,
do
whatever.
that
But
to
it'll be
me.
like, I don't know, there'll be an article that says something to the effect of far left extremists, opens fire, killing so-and-so, and I'll be like, civil war, and then they'll remove that story and just snip the little statement. And then imply that I'm insinuating that there's some kind of, or that I want to happen.
He's pushing it for it, yeah.
But in our conversation,
people are so annoying.
Every single time it comes up, someone will say to me, touch grass, right, is the old meme. Go talk to regular people. And my response is just, do you think that during like the American Civil War, that some dude walked out of his house in Atlanta, looked at his neighbor and said, do you want civil war? And then the other guy went, I certainly do. Let's fight. No, if you lived in New York and you lived in Atlanta, you'd walk outside and no one's talking about it because your life was different. You were focused on your farm or your shop or the minutia and routine of your daily lives. Everyone seems to think that you need a mass mobilization of half the country rising up and formally declaring hostilities against the other half.
Yeah, America's
that's never been the case.
Yeah,
in this instance, the reason why this story
America's Civil War is so unique compared to every other Civil War where this happened. Usually it's just factions fighting and you don't know who's who, which that seems like if we are going to Civil War in America, that's what it's seeming like, which I personally think it's going to be diverted. I don't know. I think we're in a cold Civil War right now. In Tim Pool here, he says that we're in like a hot one, kind of, because people are occasionally shooting each other. But generally speaking, that's not happening. So I'd say we're in a cold one. I'm sure, like, I'm not very well versed in American Cold War versus Russia, but I bet you there were some incidences there. So, but yeah, I'd say we're in a cold Civil War now because it's just like all these factions against each other. The left, though, I gotta say, the left, what they're doing, I think they're just going backwards. Like I've said in a lot of videos, like them pushing for immigration so hard, it seems like the left is shrinking and just normal people are just joining the right, so to speak, even if they're not even on the right. Some people want UBI that are on the right now. So it's just like, they're just abandoning the left. So I think the Civil War thing, I don't think it's actually going to happen. I think it's just going to taper off. I think there will be a big event. I think if Trump wins, like I've said before, in 2024, the left is going to go nuts. The extreme left. They're going to light the Capitol on fire. I've said that before. Look at what they're doing in state capitals. They're going to do something crazy. But then they're going to go get rounded up, and then the country is going to swiftly take it outward, somewhat swiftly, within a year or two. And I think it's going to be diverted. But it is a worry. I'm worried about it too. Everyone should be worried about it. Sorry.
We've just quite literally been talking about Lexington and Concord over the past week when a couple hundred redcoats were like, hand over your guns. And they were like, not, you can pry it from my cold dead hands. And then they tried. And that's considered a handful of militiamen. Maybe it's a little hyperbolic to say handful, but local militiamen, regular people who had weapons, saying no was the first battle of the American Revolution. The shot heard around the world.
And to even further your point,
That's
going back to the American Civil War after you've got the Revolution with Lexington and Concord, but in the American the American Civil War.
Sorry, I cut him off. So basically, what Tim was saying is the first battle from the Civil War was them trying to take the British were trying to take guns from militiamen.
There's always usually a focal point that happens, and it's usually some sort of government decree of some sort.
Yep.
Because the one in the American Civil War a lot of people point to is when Lincoln went to the South, and he went to a lot of southern states and said, I expect you to send me 75,000 troops so we can go invade the states in rebellion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is, it was I think he demanded out of North Carolina and a few others, and the response was overwhelmingly, I think we're going to secede instead.
Yeah, Lincoln was a tyrant.
A lot of people always get mad when we talk about this stuff. They're like, you're not a historian and you're getting the facts wrong. It's like, okay, dude, I read a couple academic historical papers and watched a few documentaries, so I'm probably wrong. But my general understanding was that seven states seceded before Lincoln was inaugurated, and then you had states, I think it was like Tennessee, West Virginia, Virginia. Well, not West Virginia, but Virginia itself, because there was no West Virginia.
Yeah.
Virginia was like, we kind of want to secede, but we probably shouldn't. And they're like, okay, so we're not gonna. Then Lincoln said, hey, these states in active rebellion, I'm going to conscript troops to go quell that rebellion. And that shifted sentiment in these states to where they were like, okay, now you want us.
Yeah.
Go to war?
It backfired.
Okay, this has gone too far. We're out.
You want us to go to war with our neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like not go to war with Canada or Britain or France or whatever. Like, you want us to go to war with like the state that we border.
Right.
Like, are you crazy?
Like I was saying, a lot of people don't know, Lincoln did a lot of this type of stuff. He locked up journalists. He did a bunch of stuff. It's been a while, like 10 years since I've looked into this. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that. It's like, oh, he freed the slaves. Well, the slaves, when they freed them during the war, they were forced to join the Union Army, as far as I understand it. And then they had to go fight on the vanguard, the front lines. So it's just like, you as a slave, okay, you just got freed from slavery, but now you're forced to go fight on the front lines for the Union Army. You know, a lot of those people might have just taken slavery, and how messed up is that? They just got freed and they're all happy. It's like, okay, now you have to go fight on the vanguard. Again, the vanguards, if you don't know, it's the front lines of the army. How wild is that? So it's just, Lincoln isn't as good as the byproduct of slavery being ended was awesome, but the way it happened was awful. And like, Britain bought back all the slaves government wise. I think America is the only country that went to war to end slavery. Any of the big countries, I don't know about like smaller countries or whatever, but yeah. So yeah, it's wild, very wild.
But this shifted sentiment. But I do think it's fair to say that's actually we're so far away from that. Bleeding Kansas is a better example of where we may be today. And the American Revolution may have better analogs, or the Spanish Civil War, but Bleeding Kansas was a 7-year conflict. Not even just Kansas, but in the territories outside of the actual states, in the U.S. territories, with the debate over which state would be a slave state or not. You had people murdering each other.
Wow.
So I look at this. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What happens today will not be a one-for-one reflection of what happened back then, because
definitely
the
not.
Internet. I mean, that's the easy one. Things are very different.
Yeah. Power.
In
automobiles.
Look, man,
lots of examples.
I'm talking to Brianna Wu earlier, and she's saying, like, we need to stop being at each other's necks, calm down, and move this country forward. Everything they're doing, nothing but escalate.
Yeah, it's the
opposite.
opposite.
I mean, the establishment, the machine, the DOJ. I won't even say Democrats. Let's say the DOJ. When you have,
if you're still supporting
Joe Biggs get 19 and a half years in prison for this stuff. I'm like, yeah, you realize that's just going to make everyone angrier. They like to say that it's absurd to bring up the concept of civil war. So I asked a few simple questions of Brianna. Do you think the people that stormed the Capitol when Joe Biden wins in 2024 will just pat their hands and say, well, good game, everybody, we're done? Or do you think they just say, we are still angry enough to break into the Capitol building? Yeah. There's been no logical assessment by anyone who takes issue with Barbara Walter, Stephen Marsh, or I. There's been no logical argument against anything we've said. And those are two Democrats I'm citing specifically who have said, more so than I, that we are in or actively facing civil war. There's been no argument as to what the off-ramp would be.
Yeah, and that goes back
to... My argument is Trump wins, the left goes super insane and does crazy stuff, like I was just saying earlier, and then Trump arrests him, the public want him to arrest him, and then stuff tapers down because everyone got arrested. They're trying to do the same thing with J6, kind of, but the people on J6 didn't really do anything. It was all really minimal. And then still, everyone, like a lot of people in just the independents turned on people from J6. And even though just the people that probably did most of this stuff, like the window breaking and stuff, were probably leftists in disguise. That's another video for another time. If you go look at some of the stuff I've talked about it before. But yeah, so I think they're going to go nuts. So yeah, it's going to be crazy. And I think that's the off-ramp. Tim asked about this a lot, and it's like, I think that's the off-ramp. Trump wins. The left goes completely wild. All the normal people are just like, okay, the left went so wild, and then Trump's going to go and be like, okay, good. now I actually have fuel to lock these people up, and then everyone agrees with it, and it just tapers off. Because the extreme left, they'll probably just be, what can we do now? Well, I don't want to get locked up, And they're setting a precedent, which is interesting. So if publications do get arrested, whatever, people that work for publications do get arrested, and then they get convicted, and then the left goes and does the same thing in 2024, the precedent is already set. It's like everything they're doing is just backfiring, because then they're going to get arrested, right? Because it's like, oh, you did this and you did it. You arrested these people for doing this scale, for going into a building when the cops let them in. You burned the fucking place down. Sorry for my language, but you burned the place down. They're going to be like, oh my God, this is insane. You're getting way more. So that's what I think the off ramp would be. And they get so much time that people are just like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm just going to go back to my normal life. And then Trump will just get elected and everything's going to be chill and people probably won't even care anymore. The majority. Some of these small fry people, kids living in their basement, trying to watch all these communist videos and going nuts and everything. Yeah, they'll do crazy stuff, but the majority will just hate it, and then they'll just get arrested and they'll fizzle out. You know what I mean? It's like how in the 80s there was so much murder and so much crime, and then it slowly fizzled out.
Like the classic meme of like, who radicalized you? You did. It's like it's those. It's the actions of those people that because they're it's a lot of, it's almost a direct comparison to what people like Jordan Peterson have said about Ukraine. Like we need to figure out what victory is, because it's like is winning a good thing in the long run? It's like if you rub your nose in the cat
and then whatever
is that really winning long term, or are you just building resentment? Are you making things worse?
That's look at what the DOJ is doing.
Exactly.
A video was just put up by, I think it was Julie Kelly, of Enrique Tarrio on the day of January 6th with her. He's being filmed. They were filming this. And he had no idea they got in the building. He was surprised to see it. And the evidence is all there.
Wow.
This is a fabrication against
22 years.
According to her tweet, the feds tried to get Enrique to say that he was working with Trump or that Trump had some involvement.
He didn't even know.
They wanted to connect Trump directly to Proud Boys so they can put a brand name on insurrection and say Trump orchestrated it.
They're
likely
still
remove
going
his
for
name
it
from the
anyways.
ballot. Enrique refused, so they give him 22 years. Plus, it'll be 22 and a half.
Wow.
You know what I said? There is something Joe Biden can do if he wants to simmer things down. He can issue a blanket pardon of all J6s right now. And he can say, like Shays Rebellion, he can say, it was wrong of what you did, but we cannot survive as a nation if we're constantly at each other's throats.
Yep.
That's why I think it's fair to say for those that have spent time already, time served, and for everyone else, we are giving you a good faith effort. They won't.
Well, they might. We gotta make sure that we don't go so far as to say that the solution won't happen. You have to propose a solution and allow it to hang.
So I get what you're saying. That's probably a good perspective to have. That being said, it will take Democrats to stop the escalation.
They want the escalation.
Like Republicans and the people that are being persecuted by the Democrats, by the establishment, they're not in a position to say, okay, we're going to go ahead and chill things out. And the reason is because all of the things that they're accused of are all things that are legal. Like they fabricate stuff. The guy from InfoWars that's going to go to jail. Like,
Owen Schroyer.
Owen Schroyer, he was speaking. Like Tarrio was talking to people, right? And these aren't. It wasn't incitement. These are such tortured accusations, and they have to be stretched and twisted so much to make them fit. It's ridiculous. And because of that, it has to be the people that are in the position of power saying, "Okay, we're going to stop." They're not going to, though, because the people that are not in positions of power are not in any position to say we're going to stop escalating, because they're not the ones escalating.
Exactly, Tim. You brought it up. Fonnie Williams actually refused to indict these people.
Thanks for watching this clip from.
This stuff is just so wild. How it's getting. It's just going nuts. Yeah, now firearms are getting decreed illegal, and the leftists went out of control. And they'll just say it in public. That clip I showed you earlier. They'll just say, okay, I don't care. I don't care. I'll put an emergency provision in. That's my duty to protect these people when they could just protect themselves with the current firearm laws. But now she's saying they can't even protect themselves. That's how they look at it. I'm going to use, what's that one quote? Never, I don't remember who said it. Never let a good tragedy go to waste. And that's just how it is. An 11-year-old girl, something happens to her. Very, very sad story. It's awful. But if you let people defend themselves, this stuff would go away. That you just getting rid of that's just going to make it worse. Every city that does this, look at Chicago. Look at the situation in Chicago. You get rid of all these guns permanently, and then luckily she can only do it for 30 days, maybe in 3 days until tomorrow. I'm filming this on Sunday night. Luckily, they'll probably get rid of it. But like her whole idea has always made it worse. Like get rid of guns in Chicago. Murder rate skyrockets, out of control. One of the highest in the country. It probably, for the per capita, it's probably the highest in the country. I'd have to look that up. But per cap, and then that's what she wants to do. They want conflict. They want people to be in fear, so they'll vote for them. But I think people are like, the Democrats are so in good control now and over so many people. I think I heard about it recently. George Soros funded DAs, like a third of the people, 2/3 of the people, I think it was a third, are under a DA that was funded by George Soros in the country. People are starting to wake up to this stuff. You won't convict criminals. I covered this recently. I thought it was so funny. New York is just like, the police are saying this. Oh, okay, we're going to ban people from stores. And then if they enter the stores, because 300 people commit almost all the crime in New York City. So they're like, oh, well, we're going to ban it from the stores. And then because that we did that, we can go and charge them with more serious crimes because they entered a store that they were banned from. I'm like, them fighting with store clerks, robbing them and breaking stuff and just theft, that's not a serious crime, but banning them from the store is. What? It's all so backwards and broken. They want this stuff to happen. But they're getting egg on their face. Look at Mayor Adams from New York. He's in there talking about the migrant crisis in 2021 when he's running for mayor there. He was just like, oh, no, we should be a sanctuary city and we'll always be a sanctuary city. He comes out a few days ago and it's like, oh, no, it's ruining our state or our city, and everyone is going to have to pay for it because the services are going to go down and everything. Even him, he's turning to this type of stuff. He's starting to realize it. So I think it's just a matter of time. I think that's the off-ramp. These guys push so hard that they're going to fall. And Trump losing maybe was a blessing in disguise in 2020. The J6 stuff sucks. But if you look at it, like now everyone is starting to realize leftist policies are really bad. Because Joe Biden is so incompetent, and they went so hard to fast track everything because Trump got elected for 4 years and they weren't expecting it. So they fast tracked it, and then it just blew up all in their face. It's like if you try to cook an egg too fast, it blows up and splashes all over you. That's what happened. That's what's happening. And that's what's happened. So now people are just like, I'm done with this. I'm going to vote for the right. So everything that they wanted, it's not going to happen, in my opinion. But I guess we'll see. And then everyone's just going to turn against them because of this. You just see the writing on the wall when you just make it clear as day. You write it in red letters instead of, white on a white wall. Bam. Because you wanted to fast track it. And you only had black paint. Bam. I'm just going to do it to fast track it. Well, guess what? Now everyone sees it. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe for daily news updates, smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and share your thoughts on the story in the comments below. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.